everyone, and welcome to another Scots Whay Hae podcast. And today I'm joined by writer Alison Irvine. Hello, Alison.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about Barrowland, the inside story of Glasgow's beloved ballroom, published with Luath Press. First thing is, how did this book come about, Alison?
It's got quite a long story to it, I think, which is probably appropriate for the Barrowland Ballroom. So it came about because I still work with two artists, Chris Leslie and Mitch, and we looked at the Barrowland Ballroom as part of a 2013-2014 Commonwealth Games project to look at the legacy of the Games on the cultural institutions of the East End of Glasgow. So we looked at the area as a whole, and then we had a little look around the Barras and the ballroom, and we just thought, this is amazing. Wrote about it a bit, and then thought we have to come back and do another project. So we did another project, which was a Creative Scotland funded project, and Glasgow City Heritage Trust and Glasgow Life. That was great. Spent a good couple of years researching, going to gigs, chatting to people. We did a limited edition book, which is like a fancy coffee table type book full of beautiful photos and illustrations. Mitch's dialectogram, which is a drawing full of stories and memories of the ballroom. But that still wasn't enough for me. And I just thought that, you know, when you've got lots on the cutting room floor, and I thought, God, didn't include that. And I thought there's more here, there's potential. So I thought about it for a while. Then COVID came along, unfortunately, and then everything was shut down. And then that seemed like a good place after that, when everything opened up again, to kind of revisit the Barrowland Ballroom and say, right, what's happened? How did it cope? How did people cope without live music? What's changed? Are the staff still there? All that kind of thing. So that's when this current book came along.
I mean, it is a big project. That initial one, it's amazing to think it was 2014, the Commonwealth Games, and they're coming back, aren't they, this summer? Just as an aside, have you thought of doing anything?
We have actually not necessarily. Well, I've got some ideas for the Barrowland, but I haven't spoken to Tom Joyce about them, so I'll ask him. But as a collective, we've got an idea. We've put a bid in for it, but we've yet to hear.
Okay, it's one of the questions I was thinking about as I was putting together these questions for today was, how do you decide when it's finished? Because this is a story that is ongoing.
And it's changing as well. It's never finished, and I think the bar staff that I got to know quite well, they were joking. They were like, she's never going to finish this book. I was
we'll see you soon. But it is true, one of the things that comes through, and one of the things I know from friends of mine who I've worked, some of whom still work in the Barras, is they stay, and it's always a good sign when staff stay a long time.
Yep. Do you know, I'm lucky enough, I've got a job behind the bar there now, because again, I didn't want to leave it behind. So I said, you've got any shifts? And I've done quite a few now. So I'm on the payroll, but I was just inquiring of a friend of mine's son. He was looking for some shifts. And I said, look, are there got any shifts going? And Josh said to me, people don't tend to leave.
Yeah.
So the staff aren't leaving, so no.
I know.
So people stay.
It's amazing, and of course it is one of the best views off the stage in the whole place.
It's brilliant. Sometimes it is a bit of a pinch me moment where I go, I can't actually believe I'm here doing this. I mean, it's hard work.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all bar work in general is hard work, but when you've got that throng of people, you know, at the bar. I remember going to see, there'll be lots of these stories I'm sure that we'll have, but I remember going to see Ash, and it was a kind of under 16s gig, but you know, me and my friend went along to see it, and it was so great because we could just walk up to the bar. I was one of the few people there that were like 18 and over. But usually, you know, they're some of the best bar staff in Glasgow.
Yeah, well, I've got I sometimes stand next to this young. He's in his early 20s. He's a student, and he can pour, he can pour 2 pints at a time, and it's. I'm not brave enough to do that yet. I can kind of keep the tap on and put another glass underneath it. But to see him with 2 taps on, and it's like lager, so you've got to tilt the glass and everything. I mean, they're really skillful.
Yeah,
they're very
absolutely.
Good.
And a demanding a crowd as well in terms of their drink, never mind their music. So how did you approach writing this book? You know, how did you decide who you were going to interview?
It was a good, because I had so much. I spoke to so many people, and I think what you get when you're doing a project like this is everyone's got something to say, a little snippet, a little brilliant nugget, But what I was looking for as well was I needed characters or people or longer stories to kind of hang a chapter around so that I had some structure. So that actually came quite easily because John Swift, who is the bar manager and now he's license holder for the premises, his journey's a really good one, and he was a great person to kind of pin some of the chapters around. And then Monica, who was the cleaner for the ladies' toilets, and then she was cleaning supervisor since before COVID. Now after COVID, she's now cleaning supervisor. So she absolutely loves the place. So she had quite a nice journey, if you know, in quotes.
There was something that jumped out at me about Monica because she spends her own money to get Astonish cleaning product, and I went, yes, that is the best. That is the stuff that does the job that no one else does. I would do that. There's lots of lovely little details like that throughout.
I wanted to include details like that because that's part of it, isn't it? That makes it, you know, it goes beneath the surface, and yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad you like that bit. I mean, she showed me, I think that's in the book as well, but a before and after picture. No, that's not. She showed me a picture of another venue's floor,
right,
compared with the Barrowland's floor, and it's chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
And she was like, this is my floor. And it was just immaculate.
It's an interesting thing because there's lots of fantastic photographs in it from Chris Leslie and others as well. Yeah. And often with the lights up, you don't, you know, as a gig goer, you very rarely see that, you know, and it is immaculate. It's unusual, and I've been to other venues during the day, and it is not immaculate. It is quite something.
It is immaculate. Yeah, they stay with, you know, like scrapers and get the chewing gum off the floor. And she was even like the gaffer tape that the on the stage that the band have, they scrape all that off, and sometimes they have to wash the floor a couple of times. Like, they really take good pride. I think nobody likes the sticky floor feel, so nobody wants the thought of a promoter coming during the day with the lights on and then his feet sticking to the floor, her feet sticking to the floor, so they make sure it's really clean.
And of course, one of the legends of the Barrowland is its floor, its sprung floorboards.
Yeah, it's stunning. It really is stunning. And you don't tend to, you kind of you get it at night, because I suppose you can feel it when you're bouncing up and down, but when the lights are on in the day and there's nobody there, it really is beautiful.
Yeah.
I interviewed Linda, who's worked there since 1970, and she's a descendant of Maggie McIver, who set up the ballroom and the Barras. And she remembers that floor being built.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she says she just, you would go up and see it being built. And then back in the day when they had the tea dances and things, she would sort of dance about with her mum, who was working there as well, and have a go on the floor before anyone else got there. And apparently I don't know what his job title was, but he was the supervisor for the dance hall, and he used to scoosh a beautiful polish on it as well. So there's a lot of scooshing of polishing been going on over the years. But
that hits on something which absolutely shines from the book, and is pride. Everyone you speak to, whether it's people who work there, people who play there, or people who are going there, they just, there's a kind of shared sense of pride, which I think is unusual.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is unusual, and yeah, to a person, there's pride, isn't there? I like that, because it's often people are self-deprecating about people and things and places, and that's all part of a humour of a place, but not Barrowland. Barrowland's, I've learnt this for 20 years in Glasgow, but it's kind of gallus in a way as well. It's like, yeah, we are proud of this, and we're proud to be a part of it. We're proud to know that we can make somebody's night. If you're a staff member, we can make somebody's night really good. Mm-hmm. If you're an audience member, we can make this gig the best gig that this band's ever played. There's just a kind of a shared knowledge that, we can make this happen.
Yeah, I've always found there's a welcoming nature to it, right from as soon as you kind of step in the door, and sometimes if you're queuing from outside the door, but you know, there is that sense of, you know, people have got jobs to do, but they're doing them with, okay, you're in our house now, respect our house, but we'll respect you as well.
Yeah, absolutely that. Like the security stewards on the door, they are completely on it, and they're really like beneath that kind of bonhomie or whatever. They're really sharp, but they'll banter and they'll. I remember watching the searches for somebody, and it was at a gig, and the really smartly dressed young guy had a wee button bag in his in his pocket.
Yeah.
And so the security guard found it, and then obviously there was no drugs in it. It was a button, but they completely ripped the mickey out of him.
Yeah, you've got the new suit, so you're going to take it back tomorrow, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. What was the reaction when you came along to say, I'd like to do this book, I'd like to interview you? Because some people, they're maybe a bit reticent to that.
Yeah, most weren't. I had to get past Tom Joyce, the manager, and fair enough, because he's really proud of the ballroom, and he's protective of it, and so we had to do a bit of we had to explain to Tom, like, this is how we work. We're interested in the people and the stories and the gig goers. But once we'd explained that, and Tom had given us his blessing, he sat down and had an interview with us, which is quite rare because he's not keen on. He's done 2 with me now, so I feel very lucky. And then some people just said, "Nah, I'm not up for it," but not many. Yeah. Not many.
You mentioned Mitch Miller's dialectograms. I was talking to someone recently. It's actually because I knew I was going to be talking to you, and I was trying to describe Mitch's dialectograms. And how would you describe them?
Oh, they're unique, aren't they?
Well, he takes a space. So these are animation's the wrong word, but they're drawings of spaces and places and people as well. So I remember when he did the ones round about the Red Road Flats, which I know you were involved in as well, and you would have the pub. I think it was one of these basement pubs. And this was the table that such and such sat on. At this, so he brings life to these spaces, which sometimes are no longer there.
Yeah, exactly that. So he looks at them from a bird's eye view. He calls it a pigeon's eye view, I think. And so you've got drawings of places from an aerial view. But then, like you said, he pulls out detail, and like in a comic, when you get a bit of a bubble, something pulled out, and he'll go into detail, and he'll use verbatim quotes, and he'll tell the wee story of that little illustration. And we work really well together because we often interview at the same time. So Mitch will sit there sketching. Yeah. I'll be asking some questions. He'll chip in, and then we get a transcript of the interview, and from that, Mitch takes bits and puts them in his dialectogram, and I take sometimes the same bits or different bits, and I put them in my essays, and so it works really well, I think. The
reason I bring that up now, we'll probably talk about your work with Mitch and Chris a bit more later, but the reason I bring it up now is there's somebody in the book who doesn't want to be photographed, but she allows Mitch to do a dialectogram.
That's right, Sharon, and that's brilliant because we've got an image of her, but it isn't as sometimes posing for your photo, and as charming as Chris Leslie is, and as brilliant as he is, some people just say, no, I don't want my photo taken.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you approach the project with any preconceptions of what you were going to find? Because the Barras has got a big reputation, particularly in the city itself.
Yep. I think I knew that, and it lived up to my expectations, if you see what I mean. Like, definitely wasn't disappointed.
Were you surprised by anything?
Do you know what I was surprised at is sometimes how uninterested in music sometimes the staff are, or in a way how democratic they are. So they will do the same job with the same service and the same just brilliance, no matter who's playing. Yeah. Whether they like the music or not. And like going back to John, he likes country music, like Hank Williams. So that's what he'll play. And sometimes, I said to Linda this time round, I said, have you been upstairs to see any gigs recently? No. Yeah. I might pop up for, the name's gone out of my head. It will come back to me. Nile Rodgers. But it's his job, but to them.
Yeah, and that's I think what happens over a period of time. Is that it becomes work.
Yeah.
But as again, going back to the fact that people stay there for a long time, the sense, and it comes through the book as well, is the sense of camaraderie between everyone that works there. The kind of support that there is hugely important.
It's a brilliant team. Yeah. When I did my shift behind the cloakroom, that that was almost like a little mini hub, because the security stewards would come in and obviously check that everything was all right, but they would come in on downtime moments as well and just have a little chat, and then bar staff coming through one door to go and change a keg would say hello, and there's just a lot of lovely interaction and mutual respect, I think, between everybody.
Absolutely, respect as well. You mentioned kind of pre-COVID and post-COVID, and the book is split into two parts, and that's the split in it. Were there really noticeable changes when you went back a second time? How soon after it had reopened did you go back?
I went back as a punter quite soon. I saw Billy Bragg, and it was still at that point when everyone was feeling, I don't know if we had masks, maybe some did, but there was a bit of social distancing and everyone was a little bit wary, and it was strange.
Yeah.
But and then when was it? And then I went back. I think I saw the Water Boys there as well. So for a while, I just went back as a customer.
Yeah.
And obviously loved it. And then when I went back, there were some quite noticeable changes. The bars, particularly. So the bar, the Up the Cans bar that people will remember.
Yeah.
That's gone now. So that used to just be some trestle tables.
Just almost as you were in the door, up the back. Yeah.
So that's now a bar called Sam's Bar, which is great. It's got a queuing system and it's decorated with instruments that were bought from the Barra's market. And then over the way, the main bar is now two bars called Kitty's Bar and Victor's Bar. So, but they've been done up sensitively, like in keeping. So
yeah, you wouldn't notice. I've been back since, and I see once the lights are down and once the band are on stage, you really don't notice that there's any difference at all.
Yeah, true.
You mentioned the Barra's market there, and you do touch on the market as well as the ballroom. And what do you think the relationship between the two is? Is
it the right word? Symbiotic. I think they're obviously the same family company owns them, and for a while, like maybe back in the last century, the two were running on the same level, the same popularity. The Barra's was really busy, popular. The dance hall was really busy and popular. And then in the 70s, 80s, the ballroom took a dip. And then obviously we might well talk about it, like the waterfront video, and then the gigs started happening again. The ballroom was on the up, but the market was in decline.
Yeah.
And so when we left it before COVID, the market was in not a great way.
Yeah. I say to you, I lived on High Street for about 20 years, so I used to go to the Barras a lot. And you could see over the years the changes going down. And now I was there recently. What a difference.
Yeah. It's a huge difference, and I think they're retaining some of the old traders, and the new ones are coming in, and it's just a nice big mix. And Dougal MacArthur calls his idea of the Barras now merchantainment.
Right.
so it's like, you know, you go to buy stuff, but you also go for the experience as well, and you can see there's a busking stage, and you can get some street food, but you can still buy your
sports socks and
exactly that.
Yeah. When I was there, actually, there was a guy selling his steak pies, and there was maybe only 3 people. I was thinking, when I first came to the Barras, you would have just had a huge amount of folk around him. So you can see the changes, and it's certainly kind of tidier, for want of a better term, than it was. But they've still got that kind of soul, I think, there as well.
I think so. I hope so. I think so. I think the banter and the patter's still there. But as I was wandering around talking to people are just so... Like I was interviewing somebody, and then a guy just came and sang the Barra's... Oh God, that's gone out of my head now. The Barra's Market song.
Well, it was on the telly. Was it that one about the Barra's being better?
Yes, I think it was that. Anyway, yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, back in I'm going to say the 80s, it might have been the 90s, but there was an advert on telly for the Barra's Market, and it's like, and you know, all this, and they ended with, the Barra's is better. And but when this guy was selling his steak pies to maybe 3 folk, he gave it as much welly as he did if it had been, you know, a full level of people in front of him. Yeah,
I'd love to have seen that.
Yeah. It's a really special place, no doubt about it. they talked about changing that area for quite a while. And now you mentioned that the Barras had a downturn. The Barrowland, the ballroom had a downturn in the kind of 70s and 80s. And we'll talk a little bit about that, because we've said the book's in two halves, but kind of the Barras has a number of lives as well.
Yeah, and when I spoke to anybody, they would acknowledge that. And so I would speak to somebody who was maybe at a gig that night, but they would say, oh, my grandparents met here. So you can't really talk about the present without talking about the past. And I did want to interview people who'd been to those tea dances. There was a woman called Anne who went there in the 50s, and she was telling me about the dresses she'd wear and how she'd just go straight after work. She worked down the road, I can't remember, it was a factory just down the road, and it was it just sounded brilliant. And then obviously I needed to talk about the Bible John, which was the reason why it obviously declined in popularity and then eventually shut it down. But I didn't want to I didn't want to sensationalise it, because it was still in people's living memory, and so the way I sort of approached it side on in a way, and talked about some people's experiences of everything that was happening, but also I looked at the lives of three women who did have sort of long, happy lives and danced at the ballroom. So,
because when you hear people talking about that time in Glasgow, and there was more ballrooms than just the Barrowland, there was a number. It was a big thing going out, and it made me think about my youth and going to clubs. And if you wanted to, you could go to a club every night. Back then, you could go to a dance every night.
Yeah, exactly that, or a Saturday afternoon or something as well. It was just, when should we go? Right, off we go. And people would go after work, or have their hair in rollers and take it down in the powder room afterwards. It just, I think that would have been a lovely time. I think people courted there. They maybe went to meet their partner, and then they didn't go back either. That's a lot of what happened. Or people might go and take off their wedding ring.
I've heard that story as well. I think there was one night where folk went out, okay, that's the kind of the married men would go.
Yeah. And I think, was it the Locarno was the slightly classier disco? Some ladies that I met who went in the 70s, late 60s, 70s. Yeah, the Locarno was the classy one, and the Barrowland, they just had a right good time, and there was a lot of banter and a lot of fun, and they preferred that.
I'm thinking about Glasgow's live music scene then, in that time where the Barrowland wasn't being used for anything, really, it was shut. You had the Glasgow Apollo, famously, but you would have had many other places. I mean, you would have clubs and bars, and there was a lot going on in the city, smaller venues. But in terms of that size of venue, a couple of thousand? Is that?
That's it. Yeah, 1900. Yeah. I think they did used to squeeze more in back in the days before there was the kind of strict health and safety.
Yeah.
And that's where my knowledge isn't great, because obviously I'm from East London, Essex, so I could maybe tell you about East London dance halls.
No, I'm just thinking. There's lots of stories about the Apollo, from that period, and then you've got club nights and bars and pubs and everything. So really, by the time the 80s comes around, the early 80s, Scottish music is kind of thriving. You've got a lot of acts who are kind of getting to know. Perhaps the biggest being Simple Minds.
Yeah.
And then Simple Minds decide to shoot their waterfront video in part in the Barras. Tell us a bit about that story, because it's key in some ways to the book.
Yeah, it's a brilliant story, and it could only belong to the Barrowland Ballroom, I think, that story. So they were looking for a venue to record their video for their new single, Waterfront. And their manager suggested the Barrowland Ballroom. And then, because Billy Sloan, who I got to know through interviewing him, and then he on his radio show, late night radio show, which is really well respected,
absolutely,
and a lot of people tuned in, played great music. Simple Minds management said, look, could you give some free tickets? Could you do a thing on your show? People send in a stamp addressed envelope, and they'll get 2 tickets to the filming. And the name of the venue wasn't mentioned at the time. So Billy's did this, and he's got a brilliant story about being absolutely inundated with envelopes that he then had to open and sift through and put a ticket in. And
just the notion of a stamped address envelope took me back so far.
But yeah. And the fact he did it himself as well. And then posted them all. And then these lucky people around the city or around Scotland got their ticket. And they rocked up. And they didn't really, of the 2, I spoke to 2 people, Howard and Leslie. They didn't really know what to expect.
No, you wouldn't.
No, because they hadn't been in the Barrowland, because it had been actually it'd been a roller disco, so maybe they'd been in.
Oh, okay.
But, no, so they didn't know what to expect. Leslie was just 14 and absolutely high as a kite, so excited to the thought of being on telly, being on a video. Howard was a little bit more circumspect, absolutely loved Simple Minds music, and he was like, right, let's go see what this is all about. And they just had an amazing, life-affirming, really formative experience in their lives. They loved it. Leslie said it was incredible, the atmosphere, these kind of screaming young people just having the time of their lives. And both of them, Leslie wanted to be a music journalist, and this is in the book, and so she kind of had a moment where she saw these guys on stage, a bit older than her, but from the same part of Glasgow as she was, and she thought, well, if they can be the musicians, I can write about them. Yeah. So she found that quite empowering, really, for her. Yeah,
and I think that was going on across the city at that time. So to have this hometown venue that suddenly, I mean, in terms of a renaissance, you could say that was kind of ground zero of the Renaissance.
Yep. And it's still a venue for local bands to aspire to play to, and then that's a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And I know Billy Coyle, who the crew boss, he's done some gigs, charity gigs for mental health, and he involves local bands, and that's really part of his whole ethos, is to bring people up and get them to play on the Barrowland stage. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And there've been a number of gigs in recent years for bands who have followed their career from small, pub basement gigs or whatever, and now they're kind of selling out Barrowlands and things like that, and it's just an absolute dream come true. Yeah. But it is interesting because often, Glaswegians are accused of romanticising their own, But you're looking at this from partly an outsider. You've been here a while. Yeah. And it does have a reputation outside of the city. It's not just us going, isn't the Barra's brilliant? And,
No, it really isn't. No, it's... and it is brilliant, and it is something to be really proud of and bang on about. But a friend of mine, actually, a girl I went to school with, she is in a London folk band called Stick in the Wheel, and they were supporting the Pogues, which was a massive deal for them. Yeah. And I said, "Oh, Nicola, can I interview you? Can you be in the book?" And she said she'd heard of the reputation. She was excited about playing there, and when she got there, everything she'd heard was exactly correct. She said there was history in the walls. The staff were really friendly, and then I could see her on stage, and she just looked. She said it was phenomenal. Yeah, playing to the Barrowland audience. Pogues
are one of these bands that really have a history with the place, and there are quite a few. Stiff Little Fingers being another one, I think. Yes. But they whenever that's going to sell out, and it's going. Do you mention a couple of bands? Maybe one's the Wolf Tones and one's I can't remember another.
Charlie and the Boys.
Yeah, and that's people know when there's going to be extra work perhaps required that night. Yeah.
That's how a lot of the bar staff got their first shifts. Like people that I interviewed have been there for 20 odd years, and their first shift was a Charlie and the Boys gig because they needed to bring in some extra bar staff because it's a wild night.
Yeah. But it's also interesting that it can be an intimate venue. I can remember going to see Gillian Welsh and Dave Rawlings play there. It was like a Monday night maybe, and it was last minute. Somebody went, "Oh, I've got a ticket for this, do you want to come along?" And it was maybe less than half full, but you could have heard a pin drop in that place. It was just magical. One of my great nights.
My husband was at that gig, and he said exactly the same. He said it was amazing. I would love to have.
I think
seen
they were
them.
supported by the Old Crow Medicine Show, and at the end they all come in and they all got on stage together and did the wait. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah,
So it's got that ability to give you those spine, huge, we're all in this together. You know, I've seen Primal Scream there, I saw the first Oasis gig there, things like that. But it's also got that ability to really, you know, if it can do that.
Yeah. Well, when I was shadowing the security staff and sort of seeing the nerve centre of, and that was a night when a band called Bear's Den wanted to come out into the middle of the audience and do an acoustic number. And I was like, "You are joking! Like, no way! That people won't be quiet for that." You know, halfway through a gig, and they said, "Wait and see." And they did. The crowd fell silent. There's the bar staff are told in advance, I think, to just stop serving, and it's all quite organised. And then the band came out, just one security steward and with a light, and then the manager behind them, and then that was it. Musicians played their acoustic 1 or 2 songs, went back, and it was, like you said, pin drop. I love that, because then that's the audience playing their part, isn't it? Because that's the respect for the musician. Understanding,
you know, what's going on. I think people often talk about knowledgeable audiences, but I think, you know, that is part of it.
There was on the flip side of that, and I can't remember what the band was, but there was recently when I was working there, one of the band members said, "We want to break the record for the most crowd surfers that's ever been at the Barrowland." And then the audience are like, "Right, we can oblige that." Rolled up their sleeve and
carried them round.
You see these crowd surfers going from the crowd into the pit, and so people play their part.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you have favourite Barrowland memories?
I've got definitely that Pogues gig.
Yeah, that's a real personal thing, isn't it? To see someone you know.
Yeah, because I was so pleased.
There's some fantastic pictures of that night in the book, actually, and the energy that's coming off people is incredible.
Extraordinary. Yeah, you could see the singers, the musicians, almost looking overcome on stage. I think that Billy Bragg. I took my kids went to their first gig. That's fabulous. In the book.
Yeah.
That was.
Are you working that night?
I was. Yeah. I was doing my shift. Yeah, my kind of pretend shift where I was rubbish. I probably still am a bit rubbish, but I was particularly bad. But yeah, Lucy Dacus. And then just odd things like seeing self-esteem, seeing the atmosphere. She was great, and the atmosphere in the crowd was brilliant. And then the Almighty, seeing them recently, and that was like a really classic kind of rock night, and people were really up for it, and there was great banter and a brilliant atmosphere. The switch on the kind of Charlie and the Boys crowd to the real heavy metal folk, and they're like the best behaved folk. That's right. Yeah, they are. They're really polite. Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
It is. I was thinking about my own experiences, and there's a personality in the place that is almost palpable. It's different types about 3, which I was thinking about. One, when we're going to see Bell and Sebastian, they did a run of nights there, and Stuart Murdoch was kicking footballs out in the crowd, and of course they were coming straight back, and eventually I had to say, okay, like a school teacher, give me the balls, you've spoilt it for everyone, which was a good one. Another was going to see Grace Jones there, which was astonishing, because she had a kind of staircase at the back that she kind of walked down. And then I remember going to the loo that night, being flanked by 2 guys dressed as Richard Gere from Officer and a Gentleman. You know?
Bizarre.
Really bizarre. And the other one was seeing PJ Harvey was playing there, supported by a then kind of unknown Tricky.
Oh.
And so Tricky was on stage doing his thing, that was great. And we were like, this is amazing. Yeah. And then 5 minutes later, this guy's at the bar ordering a pint, you know. And we're like, that was magic, pal, that was great. And he was like, thanks very much, kind of shy guy. Meanwhile, PJ Harvey's giving it full vamp on stage. But you know, it's not maybe the performances, it's the little things that often come from the place as much as the people.
Yep, I think that makes a night, doesn't it? Because everybody's got little stories attached to the fact that they went to see a gig at that venue. It's all part of the kind of the everything that's going on around, the conversations, the interactions, the how you got there. All that sort of stuff makes up a memory of a gig there.
And the kind of cheers, people flood back out onto the streets. You know, everyone just seems to have had a great night.
Yeah.
In my experience, I can't think of one where I've not.
No, sort of sweating and euphoric. yeah, it's great.
Do you come to any conclusion as to why Barrowland has the reputation it does? Because again, going back to on the cover of the book, you've got a quote, or at least you mentioned that it was voted best music venue in the UK by musicians and artists. But that's from Time Out magazine. It's not from, the list or something like that. It is from a kind of London-based magazine. So do you have any ideas why that might be? We've maybe touched on some of them already.
I think it is that. I think it's the knowledge that or the audience has and the musicians have that this could be a brilliant night, and then it's almost self-fulfilling, I reckon. Sometimes people say, I've not seen a bad gig there, or they say, there's only one, and then they explain why
that might be. Yeah.
But it's just got this reputation, like its list of artists that have played there for a start. It kind of gives it its credentials, and then this, I was going to say like earthy, but it's an earthiness and it's a down-to-earthness, and it's the fact that you could say to Tricky at the bar, well done,
yeah,
and he would say, thanks. And it just that there's maybe that thing about your heroes are up on stage and they are legends in your eyes and in everybody's eyes, but the distance between you and them just closes a little bit at the Barrowland.
Yeah.
So you see them as real people, and again going back to the the waterfront video where Leslie in the audience sees Jim Kerr and thinks he's not, he's brilliant, but he's not. He's a boy from where I'm from, and I think people, that distance is closed, so you feel a connection, and then that makes you feel you respect the artist more. And they maybe relax a bit more. I don't know, but some sort of magic happens.
I wonder if that's quite rare in a venue of that size, because there are no seats. Yeah. Sometimes they bring in tables and do things like that. I've been to a couple, but there are no seats. It is just the space. It's not the highest of stages. You're not craning your neck to look up, so you have got those kind of quite close connections that you would maybe get in a smaller venue, but it's quite rare, I think, in something that size, with shows that size going on.
Yep, exactly. And I think I'm quite short, so I generally get stuck behind somebody quite tall. But if you manoeuvre yourself, I think there is a way of being able to see.
There are good sight lines if you work at it.
That's it.
I think that's right. Yeah. Although again, behind the bar is probably a good place to be. Yeah. Do you have favourite stories in the book?
I think I liked interviewing the cloakroom staff because I laughed so much. They were so funny. They were probably playing up to me and Mitch, but this is when Mitch was sketching Sharon, and so that was particularly. I'm particularly fond of that. I like the idea of. I hear stories of we were running down Argyle Street to get our last train home, or the boy who bunked off school from Inverness and went to Glasgow with his mates, then got the last bus home, and all those kind of things appeal to me.
Yeah, it's got lots of stories in the book exactly like that. In fact, there's a picture kind of poignant for me. It was a picture of a U2 gig, and I would have been I was doing my prelims, and the reason I didn't go, because I had the ticket, was because I had my physics prelim the next day, and my parents went, there was no way you're going to this. I was young. And I didn't do very well in my prelim, and I thought, oh my goodness, I could have gone to this legendary gig. But there's lots of stories like that which aren't even about being there. Sometimes it's about not being there or missing out or whatever it might be.
Yep. And yeah, funny things like somebody going to a UB40 gig and then being sick in the toilets while they were playing Red Red Wine, missing a favourite song. Everyone's got a kind of a story like that.
Yeah. And we should talk a little bit more about the work you do with Chris and Mitch, because you've been doing this for a while. Is it the Recollective?
That's it.
Yeah. So talk a wee bit about that.
Yeah. So we when we worked together, we met at the Red Road Flats.
Yeah.
As we came to work there as individual artists.
Okay, so that's right.
Yeah. So I came. My commission was to write some short stories on the legacy of the flats, and then obviously, as like the Barrowland Ballroom, you can't write a few short stories about the Red Road Flats. It became brilliant and enormous, and I did lots of interviews and wrote this novel.
I was going to say your first novel was
This Road is Red.
This Road is Red, so it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then obviously I saw the work that Chris was doing, his photography, and I saw the work that Mitch was doing. And then we kind of, might have taken a couple of years, we thought, we were quite good at this together, maybe. Like, we look at the same thing through a different lens and all that. Anyway, we formed a collective, and we've been working together ever since, and I love it. It's great. We've worked on our most recent project was Cumbernauld Town Centre.
Another place with a number of stories. Everyone kind of has, I think, a story about Cumbernauld.
Yeah, exactly that. That book could have gone on and on and on. And Falkirk Town Centre we've worked on. We looked at a Aberlour Children's Charity working in Govan. The kids would kind of knock about the docks, which obviously are changing as well.
Yeah.
And they were doing some work with the African Arts Centre, so we looked at the engagement going around there. And so and as I say, we've put in a wee bid for something for the Commonwealth Games, which hopefully will touch wood.
But it seems like a really nice kind of delineage of duties. You've got you do the essay work and the interviewing and all of that. You've got Chris's incredible photography, and I don't know anyone else that's done a dialectogram. I've asked Mitch that a couple of times. It's his thing.
It's his thing. He made it up.
If you want to know about it, Google Mitch Miller and dialectogram, and you'll find some examples online.
Yeah. I should mention as well, because there's another photographer, and his story is really nice as well. So Gareth Fraser started out as just a fan of the Barrowland Ballroom, got to know Tom, and then as the Barrowland is, he started doing the open days tours, when Barrowland opened it. I've not said that very. Open doors days. Yeah. So Gareth did the tours for them. And then he did some photography on the side, and he started taking photos of gigs, and he's now become Barrowland house photographer. His images are brilliant, and he's got a business as well called Third Mile Photography. So his journey's fantastic as well, from a music fan to taking pictures at gigs. And
so many people whose lives have been changed by interaction or just action with this building, but either being a member that's given them full-time work, or it's given them a career off the back of that as well. And a sense of, it's an identity as well. I think people, like, again, going back to the pride bit a bit, like Billy Coyle, the crew boss, he then set up the Barrowland Hall of Fame, and he did all these charity gigs, and that's part of his identity now. And he's got a stall at the Barrows Market selling wrestling figures, so he lives and breathes the Barrows. Yeah, that's a great example of the symbiosis, as you say, of being in the market and working there, and working there too. And now, we've mentioned your one of your novels there. I knew you as a novelist for the novel Cat Step, which I really, really enjoyed.
Thank you.
Have you any plans for further fiction?
I have. I've got another one. It's like buses, honestly. I'm pleased to say there's a book coming out in June of this year called
brilliant.
Daughterhood. And again, that's fiction, and that's literary fiction. So in the same vein as Cat Step, families and relationships and...
is it set around Glasgow?
It's not actually, although there's a trip to Millport.
Because one of the things that jumped out about Cat Step was it was set in a part of Glasgow that's very rarely represented.
Yeah, I love Lennoxtown. Yeah. It's not, is it? I was Scottish Book Trust reader in residence for there in I can't remember, a long time ago, and I used to do the drive from south side of Glasgow across the city, and used to see the hills looming, or Campsie Fells looming in front of me, and I just see them in all seasons, all weathers, and just thought, this is incredible. And then so I spent a lot of time working in Lennoxtown and kind of fell in love with the place, and so I set the book there. But it's quite, I'm proud of the book, but it's quite a gloomy book, so I hope the residents of Lennoxtown don't mind.
Better to be talked about, than ignored, and I think it's a tremendous novel. People want to check it out. And in terms of, I mean, you kind of mentioned that you could be doing something else. Just watch this space, I guess.
Yeah. I'll say it, and then if we'd love to do. We've been in contact with the Waverley paddle steamer.
Oh yeah.
So we want to do a recollective project on them.
It's so interesting. Just the other day, I was with a group of people who we all work for Snack Magazine.
Oh yeah.
And the chat was about the Waverley and what it's like to be on the Waverley, and be careful if you go at the weekend, because sometimes they can be quite wild. And
yes, there's certain days we were told, this day is a wild day, this day is a calmer day. Yeah. So I mean, it's absolutely ripe for doing a project on. Yeah. So touchwood, they're keen. We just need the funds.
Yeah, of course. Alison, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Barrowland is such an interesting book, and it will appeal. It'll appeal to people who love their music, who are gig goers and all that kind of thing, but it will appeal to kind of historians of Glasgow and are interested in the culture and the people and all of those things as well.
I hope so. I hope it chimes on some levels with lots of people.
Well, and I'm excited to what happens next. And we'll be back soon with someone completely different.